All righty, I see the Ash, three of you, Ashley and Libby and Long and Sarah. And if you would please, if you have a question, and Libby, I see your okay. Everybody's muted. Good. If you do have a question, you can certainly unmute and I'll try to answer it. Or if you prefer, and I do, would be if you were to go ahead and send me a chat message. The chat message typically will just show up to me, and if it's something that I can address to the whole group, I will. If it's not, I'll say, hey, send me an email and I'll try to answer it. Okay, now we're over here today. The modules, we're over here for week 5, and of course we've got today, which is the 25th, and then the 27th. I want to talk about where we are in terms of the course and what's going on. Now, we had already worked Lunch's database 4, and the key is uploaded there. So all you have to do is upload that, and it's due the 27th, Thursday. Okay, we have two other cases here. Two other Lunch's database, which are really the 2 chapters 5 and 6 to cover. And I want, before I go through that process, I want to direct your attention to something I try to do, a theme kind of every week, and this week, excuse me. And for this week, I've got a whole series of databases that deal with this disaster response and recovery. And databases are absolutely, totally essential to that process. I know because I've been through it myself. I know how invaluable they are. And so I wanted to point out to you that there's a great practical benefit of using data warehousing and this concept of creating views and running queries that is not just about making money, but also a way to save people's lives and to help them. One of the things that I got to do during the tornado in 2013 was to get people in contact with their families. We had a lot of people there in Morna, as you could guess. People, knowing the news and seeing it, just inundated everybody. City Hall just started directing them over to us, and we had a lot of the members of our church who were taking down names and addresses of people and comparing that with, was this block hit or not, and where would this person have been taken? Because they had a lot of people who, frankly, their home was gone, and so we had to feed them, clothe them, get them to deal with their shock, find out who's their insurer. In fact, if you ever go by my church there, you'll see it's at the corner of 27th and I-35 and more. And we're right, you can't miss it. It's this huge building, the parking lot. That parking lot and the grassy area was filled with insurance companies, disaster relief organizations, all kinds of people. And the first thing we started doing was trying to get people reconnected. And that became a process, and managing that, it was really wonderful. People were so thankful and grateful that they could find out that their loved one was fine. They'd been taken to a shelter somewhere. And of course, as they began the recovery process, then it became an issue of we had to turn them back to the authorities because it was obvious that that person was either in the hospital and didn't have an ID, or maybe they had expired. And so databases are a tool that the Lord gives us to use, and we can do great good with them. And this is an example of that type of thing. And you'll know, I think you recall, one of the other passions for me has been the amount of unexploded ordnance that's out there on planet Earth, and the number of landmines. The landmines are the most tragic because that's where I don't know how many children a year are killed or maimed for life because of landmines. And they're usually in places where that child will never get the kind of health care and rehabilitative services that they could get here. A lot of it is in the Bosnian conflict there in the former country of Yugoslavia. Landmines were used in lieu of weapons, and so they just determined, we'll just lay 10,000 mines down here, and the enemy, as they come through, they won't be able to reach us. And so landmines have become a problem. They're used a lot in Africa, in conflicts there, and there are millions of those things laying around and have never been set off. And I think I showed you one time, if not this class, maybe another, the unexploded ordnance just in the city of London. I think, if I'm not mistaken, there's somewhere around, I think, 40 to 50,000 bombs that were dropped during the Second World War that they never went off. And it's a routine thing there when they do construction to run into ordnance. And what you have to do is you have to stop. The first thing you have to do is, before you ever dig, they go in and take, they make sure that there's nothing in there that, if there's a bomb or something, then they extract it. The British government does. They have units that do that and get the thing out and get it exploded. So these databases can do a tremendous amount of good, and these are some outstanding organizations. And I often have students who will say to me, gee, I've got my degree, but I really want to do something good for the world. Let me suggest these organizations are often looking for professional people, and the pay won't be fantastic, and you may work under some adverse conditions, but you may find it something of great value to, and something that you can do as your own ministry, because these are people who need help. And I can say this, having seen the BGCO in action, up close and personal, I can tell you that, and the North American Mission Board, I can tell you they're absolutely, totally, positively fantastic. Again, I lived through the tornado of 13, and as memories fade, people don't understand. But if you drive from, say, get on what we call get on 19th Street and drive west towards 44, as you drove, there was nothing but one pile. It looked like someone had just taken matchsticks and dropped them there. Everything was flattened. And the numbers of people that we served, I think we probably had, there were 12,000 homes, if I'm not mistaken. I believe 12,000 homes were destroyed. I could be wrong about that, but or damaged. I think I'm correct. And we had tens of thousands of people that we served. But within an hour and a half, the BGCO was there, set up, ready to feed people, helping us get organized. And then that evening by midnight, the North American Mission Board was there. And I think, one of the ways that we really witness to the world, that we walk the walk, is in disaster relief. And so I know that in our church, our experience after the 13, I think we had a memorial service there and all that type of thing. I would venture to guess, we've never really gotten to very good accurate numbers, but I'm certain that we've had at least dozens of people who've come and joined our church, many of whom have made professions of faith because they saw what we did. We witnessed, we walked the walk. Well, enough of that. I'll take up a sermon for all that. But let's talk about Lunch's database number 5, and that's the Patrick text. And just so that you're always remembering, I like to go over to Amazon. Now, I have my own physical copy, but I like to go over to Amazon and let you see, to make sure that you have the text with you. And to really get the most out of this, you need to have the text with you, okay? So we're going to start at chapter 5, and it talks about the data dictionary, okay, and other Oracle topics. Now, this is a very valuable chapter because it will give you a good look at Oracle, and a lot of things like screenshots, pictures of the toolbar, etc. And so when you leave here, if an employer says, have you ever worked with Oracle, you can honestly say, yes, I've worked with it, because the code that we use often is dual code. In other words, it works for either one. And at the end of the course, if you wish, you can choose as an option to download a baby version of Oracle and work with it. And what you're going to find is these databases are all pretty much constructed alike. They all do the same thing. And this concept of data warehousing, once you grasp it, then you can understand how valuable reports are and how valuable the information is that you've got. And again, when people ask me, how much of our resources should we devote to IT? I will tell them, if just the run-of-the-mill company, 6 to 7% of your gross, and their heart stops. And then I'll tell them, if you're a knowledge-intensive firm, like a university or a pharmaceutical corporation or an engineering company, you probably should be spending at minimum 10% of your gross income. And because of that investment, it's important for you to understand maybe not how the thing is run or entirely put together, but to understand the power that it has and why it's a valuable resource. Now, I don't know if I've created the link in here or not. I thought I had. But you can go out on the internet and you can find Oracle's guide for retailers who decide to use the Oracle product. And one of them, I think the guide for the retailer, is about 150 pages. And they tell you exactly how to set the thing up and exactly the tables and what you should have in them and the types of queries you should run, because they want you to use their product and use it correctly. Well, if you pop over here to 173, page 172, they walk you through the chapter, okay? And you can see and read all that business about the Oracle database faster than I could ever speak to you. So I'm gonna encourage you to do that, okay? But I do want to make certain that you carefully examine page 179, 180, and 181 and 182, because the authors walk you through the process. They show you graphics of it, of modifying a view. In chapter 4, we learned about how to create a view and what a view is, and then how do we modify it. And so we take a table or set of tables, we extract data from that set of tables and create a view, and then we begin to modify that view to further refine the information that we get. So we're always in this process of drilling down or drilling across, using column functions, using row functions, or diagonally by looking at several tables to distill the information that's there. You say, this sounds a lot like you're working with diamonds. You are, because if you uncover an insight about your customer that will help you serve them better, it's your lucky day. And so those chapters walk you through the modifying a view. Now, over on page 183, they give us some code about, they give us some code there. So let's do this. Let's go over to the files, okay? And we'll go over to the files area. And we're going to get the Patrick materials. That's the zip file, okay? Now, I already have it on my desk, but I'll walk you through the process again. Here are the Patrick materials. And download that to your desktop, okay? and then open it up. And this is what you'll find. Now, I already have it downloaded on my computer, on my machine. There's our friend Cardinal Buddy. He's sad today because they lost to the Brewers last night. He's thinking he may miss the MLB postseason party. It looks like it's probably not going to happen for him. But he remains optimistic and cheerful to the last moment. So we'll open this up, and you'll see here's SQL Fun. And remember, this has all of these dimension tables that we've been running queries off of. So I'm going to open up SQL Fun. Okay, and I've got a desktop. Now I'll click, yeah, I understand all that business. Okay, and then I will go ahead and enable it. Okay. And it's telling me I'm being a bad person. I put SQL Fun, and I think I'll put LD5. I'll put it on my desktop. LD5 Harmon. And again, this is why when we talk about the idea of a data warehouse, you see we have all of these dimension tables up here, and we're just running queries off them. Now, over on inside that Patrick file also is the code. Okay, so we'll open that up, and we'll take the code for chapter 5, and we're going to throw that. And since we're here, we're going to already go. Let's go ahead and get the code for chapter 6 because we'll be doing some work with it as well. Okay. And move this out of the way for a moment. Now let's open this up, and then we'll open up. Let me get the code for 5, and let's grab that as well. That's chapter 5. We'll open it up, and there we are. Now we're going to come down to 5.5. And we're going to get a shipping department view. All right. Now, let's just go ahead and copy this. And we're just getting. Let me stop for a minute. Did somebody have a question? Did you have a question? Anybody have a question? Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and click Create, and we'll go over here to the Query Design. All right, and we're going to close that off because we're going to go down to the SQL view, and we're going to select it. All we're going to do, this is a simple select query, and we have a where statement so that we're going to only select those who are from the shipping department. So we'll run that. And there it is. And that'll match up. So all we've really done is, we've just created a view here. Now we can modify this if we wish in any one of a number of ways. But we got all shipping department people. And you can see the code at the bottom of page 183. They show you the beginning table, and we pulled this from employees. And then you see what we should have is an ending table, okay? Now, I'm looking at this, and I'm seeing I've got 1, 2, 3 results. And we use the 0505. Let's go back up here for just a minute to the design view. And we use the 0505 employees. Okay, they modified the table. Okay, so they had made some changes to the table, and that's down there at the bottom of 184, and we didn't mess with that. But then we see the data here, the ending table, the beginning view there at the top of page 185. So you'll see these people. So we have our beginning view, okay. And they had done. We were to modify that, and then in page 185, he has us delete that view. We could do it with, if we want to. I'm just going to call it 5.5. Okay, just for the purposes of brevity. And so we've got that 5.5. And again, if we want to adhere now, what they're going to have us do is eliminate an employee. They're in the middle page 185. They have us run a query where we eliminate that employee 208 who is Fred Campbell. And then at the bottom of 185, they show you the file where you don't have Fred. Now you'll say, well, I'm only going to end up with 2 in my results set. Where's the other third? Well, they had added some employees or modified that table, and we just didn't do that. Okay, but we still exercised the query, and we followed the process, so we're in good shape. But what that is saying there is delete from section 0505 shipping department view, where the employee ID equals 208, and 208 would be Fred. So we would just run that query and eliminate Fred. Okay. Now we could also do it in the right here and just modify it and delete the record. And that's one of the advantages. So let's just do this. Now what we're going to do is we're going to change the view. Okay, we're not changing the table, just the view. So I'm going to click on this record, and I'm going to delete the record. And I'm done. I've gotten 208. I did not write any code. Okay, I just used the graphic user interface. Okay, so we've got 5.5 done. Now let's pop on over here. Over on page 186 and 187, they walk you through the same type of distillation process. Okay, and they show us this beginning employee table, then an ending table, and we've made some modifications. There's nothing there that we haven't done before. Okay, and then we get the beginning view at the top of 187, and we modify it and in this case, all right, that view, notice what they're going to do. Now I'm walking you through this verbally because they show you the beginning table, the ending table, and then notice in the middle of page 187 what they do. Okay, they're going to insert into that table, and they've created a table A and a table B. 0505 section 0505B view. Okay, so they've created that, and they're going to insert some values into that. Okay, and the values are going to be 211 Susan Manning, executive 50. All right. And so we're inserting that into 505. Now, as I said before, once we've created a view, we can, if we want, in most commercial products, change that. For example, we took this, we eliminated a record, and we could add this person, a Susan Manning. All right. Now, the authors want to show you the code so that you see how it's done. But the truth is, in most products, you'll be able to eliminate that data using the GUI like we have here. But they want to show you that, I think it's, if you want to on your own to spend the time to modify a table and then run a view, modify a view, I think you get it when you see the code delete, or for example, when you see the code, and this is middle page 187, insert into, and here's the table, the view, and then the values. And so we're basically we're just simply doing, we're entering those aspect, those dimensions of the record, employee ID, first name, last name, department, and credit limit. And that's the 211, Susan Manning, executive 50. And you could do it in the GUI. So I mean, let's just do that right here. So we're not exactly following the book, but I want to show you that we can go ahead and do that. So we're going to put in 211. Okay, we're going to edit it. And again, most good commercial products will enable you to do that. That's why Access is such a good example to work from, because it's the progenitor of all of these, and they're calling it the EXE for executive, and the credit limit is 50. Okay, and we go ahead and put that in dollars. And if we want to make it pretty, we can go ahead and center it up however we care to. And we could do some work in here with the credit limit. We'll take that, and we'll click home. And if you want, you can move it around or however you want to do with a little bit of formatting, not too much. Okay, and we'll just save this as 5.5. So I wanted you to understand the authors want to show you the code underlying some of this, but here's the thing. If you look at page 186, the top, the bottom, page 187, it's a process, and we always start with a beginning table, okay? Then we make some modifications or changes to it, and we get an ending table, and then we get a beginning view as they show us at the top of page 27, and then at the bottom of 187 we have an ending view. So this pretty much shows you the cycle that goes on. Now this is in the data dictionary because we're dealing with dimensions, and we're changing records in a view and changing records in a table. And that's why the authors stuck that over there. Now, on page 189, this is an Oracle piece that talked about using the check option function. Doesn't work like that for Access, and then you'll see where the author says there on page 190, Access does not support the check option. It doesn't provide that. Now, page 192 in chapter 5 gives you a very nice overview of the SQL commands page, and auto commit, the data dictionary, and if you look at page 196, you're going to see, okay, the type of information you get from the dictionary table, the columns, what's there, and how to get that and get that. And it says, for example, how to find the names of all the tables. And in Oracle at the bottom, page 187, select table name from the user tables. All you have to do in Excel is just simply click on the table. So I'm gonna just click on alphabet for a moment. All right, there's the table in its view, and we're going to go down to the design view, and this should look familiar to us. I'll pop this up. And the type of short text, it's the data type, and we see the size of the field, and it's required. Yes, allow zero length. In other words, allow null. They'll allow a null, which I don't care about that. And then they say it's indexed, yes, and there are no duplicates. And we've talked about indexing, what that is. So we see the data dictionary. That's one of the reasons that Access type products are so popular, because it's easy to set up a table, choose the data type, and then, as you can see, you would fill in notes about this. What is this supposed to be? What type of data? And then if you want to do a lookup, and we've done lookup before where you kind of create a drop-down menu, you're good to go. So the authors walk you through some of the code that you run to do that in SQL. Now, it's likely that when you go to work for someone, especially if it's a really big organization, that you'll have access. You'll be able to run queries on, and you will be able to see certain tables, and they'll probably use aliases for the names simply as a security issue, but you'll see the data that you need. Okay. And this is the thing is when you hear so much today about dashboards really have to be specialized almost to a position or to the person, so that the individual who occupies a particular role can function. They can get the data that they need. And ultimately, all of this leads us back to the business intelligence, leads us back to the company strategy. And it leads us to company strategy in two ways. One is the SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And you definitely need a dashboard for that, to see that. And then the typical Porter model, where you talk about the relative power of suppliers, new entrants, etc. That model that we overlay on companies, and that you probably saw and talked about during MIS. So that's, as we walk through chapter 5, there's some other things that they ask us to do. And again, they'll walk you through how they do it in Access, but then again, that we can use, in Oracle, but then again, we can use the GUI, the graphic user interface, there in Access. So you can see pages 202, 203. The truth is that once your database administrator probably inherited what they have in terms of warehouse, and they're working with it to modify it and make it more rational or easier to index and easier to procure data. And at your end, the person using, say, a dashboard of some type, and you remember when we had Northwind Traders and you opened it up and you had those little places you could click to see reports. That's a dashboard. Okay, it will be up to you to say, I need some other items, or I need something secondary that I need to see as well. Okay, and that will be where you'll be able to have an intelligent conversation with it. Now, over on page 294 and 295, they talk about constraints. Okay, and writing codes using Oracle code to write constraints. But then over on page 206, they show you the Access, how you can do it in Access. Okay, and you can put those requirements in the general area, and they talk about, for example, finding the primary key. Well, that's pretty easy. They give you in a table in Access, and often in many commercial products, they will have some kind of icon that indicates this is a key. Now, what we see here in this step, and this design view over on page 206, you'll see the primary key for that table, and then you're going to see a foreign key, which is product code. Okay, and it looks like to me that the supplier key, probably together that creates a code of its own, and they talk about that and the columns of that. What they're doing here is they're using two two primary keys from two different tables, to create a composite type of a primary key, the supplier ID and product code. And that makes sense. And so you want it match up with what's the product, that is the code, and who's the vendor, and that's the supplier ID. Well, they'll walk you through some of the key points there over on page 207, and that's chapter 5 in a flash, okay? And I understand, whoa, that's fast. Now, I'm going to close this off, and I've got it saved, but I want to show you something over in the files section, okay? And this is what I'm going to go ahead and I'll just add it. And I had an lunches database 5. Here it is. Okay. And this is what I'd worked on, back, I think, a year or so ago. And I'm going to go ahead. Let's see if that's 15. Let's find 5. That's what is relevant. Here it is. It's published. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is you can use lunches database 5, okay, for your upload. Now, I'm going to go ahead and make it visible up there and make it easy on everybody by going up into the module, okay? And then I want to talk about what's in there, because I did a little bit extra. And let's see, I'm going to add, that's what I want to add. You're getting a little bit of the behind this. Notice this learning management system, Canvas, it's a database. I'm running a query right now, and I'm going to make one of those files visible up at the module level. It's visible you'll notice I had it grained, which means you can see it down in the files section Canvas. And now I'm going to take it and I'm going to render it over here as a view over here in the item for this week. I'll click File, and they'll go down here to it, and let's scroll down. I'll find lunches database 5. There it is. And I'll add the item. Okay. And you'll notice now the item is down here at the very bottom. Now, one of the things that commercial databases do, which a learning management system like Canvas or Moodle or Blackboard or some of those other online so-called, what we call learning management systems, they have the capacity to do drag and drop with objects. So I'm going to do a drag and drop. Now, this is going to, you and I are used to kind of grabbing something off of our desktop and dumping it in. But here we're going to do something. I'm going to take this, I'm going to move the object. Okay? And I didn't grab it sufficiently, so I've moved up here. We'll move up here a little bit more. We'll get it in the order that we want. And as you can see, I'm just slowly but surely inching up here. And here's lunches database 5. That's what I want you to upload for the workshop credit. And I'm going to open it up for just a second. We'll see some things that we've done. We'll see some other tasks that were over there in chapter 5 that we didn't do. Okay, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to simply download it. You want to download it to your desktop, save it, rename it, save it, and then upload it for 5. Now, if you've already uploaded something for 5, I'm okay with that. All right, don't get crazy. But this is I would say is a good example or a good working product as a result of what we see in 5. The whole idea of chapter 5, the data dictionary, is the way that we, first of all, this is all about the dimensions, changing them, putting constraints on them, all right? Creating views that let us do some work and then refining those views. But the data dictionary is essentially what it really means. And it's most explicit in Access, MS Access, and in MS Access products that they're drawn from and based on access. Now they don't look like access, but they act like it. And one of those is that the data dictionary is there right there in the table. You don't have to run a query to see it. And you can if you choose to do so. And it's defined, it's putting the constraints on those on particular fields and figuring out the primary key, what are they, and providing data information about them. So let's go ahead and do this, and I'm going to download Lunch's DB5. I'll just open it up here. And then I'm going to download. And we'll take a peek. Yeah, I'm just going to show it my folder here. We're still in good shape. Okay, good. All righty. And you'll notice I've done this before, so I'm gonna take this original and throw it out here, and so we can see it. All right, and we're going to scroll down here to our queries, and we'll start to see these. Here's 5.5, the example one. Okay, and let's look at it from the design view. And that's where we eliminated that employee. All right. And we'll go down here and we'll find another. You can see a bunch of them from chapter 2. And what I've been doing at this point was just having people work the same database. And here, that's example 1, step 4. Here's example step 1. That's where we got the shipping employees. And I had the example for step 5. Now at this point, as I go over these and you have the text with you, it should become easier and easier for you to see what we're after when you look at the code level. And it should be obvious to you that, okay, I'm going to select Asher. Okay, I'm going to get everything from this view called sectional 505 view. Okay, here's step 6. And the iterative parts of it, okay. And now we're looking at the employees table. Now I don't have to write the code to do that. I can just click on the employees table and see it. Okay, but the authors want to reinforce this. And then here's example 2, and there are the steps for it. Okay. And as you can see, I'm going to say that we're pulling I guess this is from the employees table, and we specify the employee ID to get this information. Now I'm going to go down to the design view and take a look. Okay, well, I don't see it. I'll go down to the SQL view. And there it is. And we're pulling everything. We didn't just rely on the employee ID. So I come back up to the view. Okay. And then here's example 2. And there's our select statement. And we're going to select everything from that shipping department view. So there was really, I mean, you can conveying this really just becomes an issue, showing you here we're getting everything for the employees, and that pretty much takes care of that. So upload that, and here's another query. Let's look at this. Let's go to the design view. Now this is an update query, And you say, okay, Dr. Harmon, how do you know? Well, just like any good commercial product will do, when I look at the top of a toolbar, and this is applicable with any kind of software that you use, particularly productivity software like Word, like PowerPoint, like Excel, like Access. When you're using a particular function or functionality within that tool, okay, it will typically give you some type of visual cue that's being used. And in this case, you can see that the update is gray shaded because it says you're about to run an update query, which means you're about to alter a table of some sort. And you'll notice that the icons there at the bottom, over here on the left, here are views, but here's an update query, okay? And again, the icon, and every product has its own icons created or used that will show you the different types of queries that you're working with. And we can go, and we're down at the code view on this, okay? So this is chapter 5. Now, I'm going to close this off, all right? And I'm going to come back up here. And we go, okay, we got 14 of us, good. And we're going to talk about chapter 6, which starts over on page 209. All right? Now, I think that it's important that you understand that the creation of tables typically is let's see, does somebody have a question? Thought I heard somebody with a question. I probably just muted. Okay. The creation of tables is typically the job of the database administrator who takes the types of information that you need or use and translates it it will create dimension tables, okay, that will feed into a fact table. Table creation and access is easy. Now, the authors are going to show you, okay, some code to do that. All right. Now, I'm going to go back here for just a moment. And I'm going to go through a second exercise because it's going to be a lot quicker for me to show you and quicker for you to discern what we're looking at. So I'm going to come down and I'm going to find the lunches database 6. Okay, and we'll go through that exercise of you can upload this here, all that bizwax. And see, I have lunches database 6. Here it is. Now it's visible over the files. So I'm going to come back over here from the files section. All right. And I'm going to go over here into the modules. The modules are almost literally like a dimension table. And then I just fill it in. And the dimension is it's chronological as opposed to thematic. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add, and I'm going to go look for a file. Okay, and I'm going to find that lunches database 6. Here, we almost ran by it. There's 8 done. Find 6 here for just a second. I always saw it in here. Pretty sure I saw it. I probably just ran by it. There it is, lunches database 6. Of course, I apologize. Now, I'm running a query. It said, okay, what do you want to add to this thing called week 5? Well, I want to add a file. Okay, what file do you want? Now, underneath this, which you and I don't see, is all of the code that's being run and that's embedded. But if you want to see a dashboard, you're looking at one. Okay. Now, I'm going to click Add Item, and it's added to the week. And then, of course, I'm going to do some drag and drop because it has that functionality. You got to get a hold of it with the grasp. And I'll move it up a little more. This is one of the things, I think it's Blackboard that has one that you can just simply click up and down. This may be too. This is probably me just not having exported enough like I should have. Let's see here. One more jump. There we go. Now, that's what I would like you to upload for Lunch's Database 6. If you tried some stuff and you uploaded something already, not to fret. All you gotta do is look at this to see what we're after. Over on page 212. Now, I'm not going to open this up. You can if you wish, but I want to cover some of the code that's in here, and we should be now at a point where as I talk about it, you can see what I'm talking about. Let's look in the middle of page 212, and you see the Access SQL. Okay, and they give us the task above there. All right, and here's what we're going to do in Access. I'm going to create a table, section 0601 foods. All right, and then I start the parentheses, and I start to say, okay, I'm going to have a column or a dimension called menu item, and it's going to be in a byte format. Then supplier ID. That'll be use variable characters, 3 variable characters, product codes, and variable characters means I can have numbers, letters, spaces, specialized things like a hyphen, exclamation point, an @ sign, variable characters, and then I come down to and that's 2. For the supplier ID, and then the product code has 2 spaces allocated to it. And then we come to the description, it has 20, and then the price, which is formatted as money, okay, and a price increase formatted as money. Now, if you want to do that, you can write all this, you could write all of that code, but in any commercial product today, typically, you'll go into if you're DBA, you'll have the permission to go in and create the table and just fill it in like we've done before when we've made tables in 1123 or we've made tables in here. You don't have to run code, but seeing the code helps you understand that we have to determine. Okay, some issues as regarding what I want and the format of the data. Okay, and so now when we run this, okay, we get an empty table with no data in it. Okay, and the reason is we haven't put any information into it. We just get the empty table. At this point, once you have the table, okay, then you would create a form, and that's where the data would input it. Now, it might be a form that a customer comes up to and inputs data, like they're going to make a purchase or they're ordering inventory, or maybe they're one of your business partners and it's a back office thing, and they're ordering and they're telling you, hey, we're going to need this much inventory, etc. And again, you'll have to populate that with data. Now, the authors talk about internal names and synonyms or external names as they talk about databases, and they talk some about what they call the jet engine. That's the underlying code that runs the software, and it's different for the two of them. And the authors go into some discussion there at the bottom, page 212 and 213, on what are called data types. Computer science students and our CIS, I don't know what the CIS students, but I do know the computer science students take a course called data structures. And the data structure course is nothing about, it's focused entirely upon how do I construct a table that uses the right type of data in the most economical sense in terms of storage and is formatted in the appropriate way. And so that's part of that, and that's a big piece of the data structure. Now, before they ever get to that point, data structure, you're talking about the business case. What is it that we run? Every table, every query, everything should always have a business case. There should be a reason you're doing it. You just don't do it to do it. And it should, you just don't create tables to create tables. You create them as a place to get data. And so the authors give you some good discussion there about that, okay? Types of numbers and all that business. And then on page 214 and 15, the authors walk you through the Oracle and Access data types. Now, this is good stuff for you, okay? Because now I don't think you'll ever have to worry about this. You'll go to work and you'll have a database up and running with definitions and with formatting, etc. But it's important for you to understand that when we collect data on any large scale, it's not for free. It costs us money. Now, you can hit we've got server costs, okay, down probably as low as we can get them now, short some kind of change in the material place where data are stored, i.e. servers or server blades. And of course, another piece of that is going to be the energy generated, because in a server farm, you have to spend energy to keep the thing at an even keel, because you have that many computers here, it's a lot of heat. And so there's some of that piece of the computer engineering that's part of all this. But understanding that we have to put considerable time and thought, we will have to ask ourselves, if I have a typical kind of database product that will let me create a report, all right, and then in the report format the dollars. Those are things that your database administrator works through and can work with you to help save you some money instead of having to have it stored in a table and occupying a lot of space. Now, this may not sound very realistic to you, but you may go to work for someone, and I guarantee you, if you have 10, let's say even 1,000 customers, you're going to start to see lots and lots and lots of questions like this emerge. Do we want a full date, or do we want an abbreviated, truncated version of a date? And if you're talking about a big bank or somebody like this, you start talking about some money to handle those. But it's good for you to see them. And again, it's helpful for you. So when you go out to work and a prospective employer says, have you ever had any experience or any exposure to the data types of Oracle and Access, you can say, yeah, I know a little bit about it, and I probably can go bone up on it some more. What can I do to help out, or why are we doing it? And typically it's going to be something about size or formatting, okay? It's always going to be about that. Now, there at the top of 214, the authors use the term long string. A string is really nothing more than a bunch of code that's put together. It might be a message. It might be just simple code. We're selecting this and this and this, but it's a string. That's all they're talking about right there. No big secret deal. Now, over on chapter, pardon me, over on page 217, and they have a secret additional thing about the data types. Now you understand why a computer scientist really has to take a course on data structure, because you have these options and they have some significant impact. And again, this is to help you when you talk to them understand the constraints under which they may operate. Okay? So that you won't walk in and go, hey, could you give me, can you go ahead and add the name of the product? And your DB liaison goes, well, maybe. And this will help you when you're at the table with people, the accountants, the finance people, the marketing people, the IT people, when you're at a really responsible position or you own the company. You want to be able to have an intelligent conversation with them. And they walk you through variable length strings, okay? And they give, over 219, they give you Oracle SQL for creating error messages and all that. And then over on page 230, they give you a whole set of queries that you get to run if you care to, okay? And that's a lot of work. You'll say, when you see this, then you say to yourself, I'm glad that Access has, or most commercial products would have, a graphic user interface to enable me to do this. And they do. This is a lot of code to write to just get a few things done. And they walk you through all of this three. Now I had given you the Lunches Database 6, and I'm just gonna open it up for a second. And we'll take a look at it. I'll show it my folder. You can see now why I've taken the approach I did, because there just wasn't a lot of heavy lifting in terms of running code. I could talk you through most of it far quicker than just simply showing you. And of course, now we'll do this. We'll just look for queries, and we'll start to scroll down and look. And here's for 6.3. This is an insert query, and I'm going to go to the design view, and I'm going to insert text data types, these values. Here's another insertion. Here's a third. You can see this can start to be pretty tedious. This is why you have forms. And you use forms extensively, because you have the table set, you have the GUI to set up the table. You have a form created to more easily input the data, and it's all pre-formatted, so you're just putting in data. Okay. And here's one that truncates, and you want to be careful about silently truncating data, because you're getting rid of it. Oh, over on page 223, they show you the Oracle and Access. And at the bottom page 223, they give you some code that doesn't necessarily work, and there's an error in that code. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to click Create. Okay, query design. Close that off. And I'm going to go to the SQL view. All right. Now, at the bottom of that page, I'm going to input this data. Select. And I think it's L_foods. Dot asterisk. So I'm going to get everything out of that. And I'm going to put it into SEC 0607 underscore foods. And I'll get it from L underscore foods. And I'll put in the asterisk. Pardon me, the semicolon, excuse me. And I'm going to get a view and see what I got. There it is. So I got everything out of that table. Okay. So I've selected everything out of the foods table and I put it into this other table. Now, here's the view. That's what I'm inputting. Okay. And then I can execute the query. And I'll go back to the design view and I can run the query. And notice what this says is I'm making a table. All right. And I can run. And when it says the existing table will be deleted, we're going to paste 10 rows in a new table. That's what we're about to do. And there's our 10 new rows, our new table, etc. So this one would be, I'm going to call this, let's just save this. I'm going to save it and let's call it 6-7. I don't think we have a 6-7 in there. Maybe we do. Yeah, go ahead. I'll go ahead. We're good. So you can see why I just kind of bumped us through this. Now, over on page 225, they show you a lot of code and insert queries to create a table, okay? Alter it. Now, in the middle of page 225, you're going to see the alter table L underscore employees, okay? This is the alter table. That's a function or a in Oracle. And then you're going to add a constraint. And notice the PK is used. So does that mean primary key? Yeah, for sure. And then we're going to indicate the primary key is the employee ID. And then we'll insert all these data. You've got a bunch of queries there you can write, or you could probably have a form. My hunch is you'll have a form. Now, the authors also walk you through in page 226, 227, okay, 228, 229, how to add and subtract a primary key. You've done this before, and most commercial products will have an iconic way to do this. And this is, I'm going to go to the design view on this, all right? And this is actually a view. Okay, so I'm not going to be able to develop it, to use it to create. It's a view, it's not a table. So I'm going to do this. So I'm going to close this off. Let's close these other off. And let's go up to the tables. And we'll look at this. We'll look at the employees table. And we'll go to design view, and you're going to see that employee ID is the primary key. And how you do it? Well, simple. I'm going to take this off. It says you can't change the primary key in one or more relationships. It's related to several tables, but it's not going to let me do that. But I could do this. I could put manager ID and make it a primary key as well. And it says it's got this in one or more relationships, so it's not letting me do that. Let's try first name. But as you can see, if I want to get rid of it, we can. Now, what it warns us, what it was warning us of is, hey, you've got this thing connected to a lot of other tables. You're using employee ID as a foreign key in other tables. And manager ID is a primary key in another table. Okay? And you can create composites, but it's a little bit difficult. But that's really all that's going on in terms of the primary key constraint and changing it. And then again, over in 229, they talk about adding a column to a table. Well, if I want to add a column, i.e. a dimension, I'm in this table. I just come right over here and put new. And I'm going to make this, I don't know. We've got long text, and voila. When I go up to the view, and it would show me the new table. I'm going to close it off, not save it. Changes. And we're good. Lengths of a column, it's the same story, deleting a column from a table. And you don't with the GUI, you don't have to write the code. That's the beautiful part of it. But you do have to do some thinking about how everything is pulled together. And you say, what do you mean by that? Well, okay, let's go to the database tools, all right, and click on relationships. And now you see what I'm talking about. So these are pretty complex. This is a fairly simple table. There's a lot going on. You can see all these relationships. The one to infinite, one to many, that type of thing. And you can see where I'm using foreign key, double primary keys, and then taking them and embedding them in other tables. So the issue of making changes to tables, you really have to think your way through that, especially in terms of how it's going to impact that whole set of relations. Now, before you even get to this point, everybody has sat down and said, okay, what will be the data? What data do we need in our tables? Okay? And work all that. And then what would be the queries that we would run? And I think I may have it over here in this course, a link to, as I mentioned earlier, that piece for that Oracle says, okay, if you're going to run an Oracle retail program, here's the 150-page manual, and we'll come help you follow it so you get the data. And what they've done is they have created universal dimensions, that is, dimensions that would fit in any retail environment. So you're not reinventing the wheel. And then they know report functions based on their experience with their clientele, the kind of report you're probably going to want. They've got it all laid out for you there. Okay? So you can see why, and you can work with the GUI, and you can even go in here and work with this GUI to get a sense of how it all fits together. Now, chapter 6 at the bottom of page 236, top of 237, starts to discuss the issue of duplicate rows, okay? And what they say is you should never allow duplicate rows in anything you show to the public because it creates confusion. Now, they walk you through why they are allowed, okay? And you can create duplicate rows if you wish to do so. And what they're saying are duplicate records, okay? And they walk us through some of that in page 238 that are duplicates, but they represent different data. The easiest one is what they show you there at page 238, and that is price, okay? we have two items there, both of which are sold for $2. To the computer, it says, it's a duplicate row. Oh, okay. You've got one. Okay, I see. You have a different name for that dimension called object bot. Okay, I'm good. You follow? And then you can have the example of duplicate rows that represent the same object. And notice this, the object here, okay, is Susan Brown and Susan Brown's address. Now, we have her at 512 Elm Street, and she's going to show up as a duplicate row in several tables. So that's one of those anomalies, and they're at the bottom of page 239. They show you in the Access SQL, select distinct into the 06016 duplicate rows from 06015B. So when you say select distinct, you're saying get rid of any duplication. And they show you the beginning table there at the bottom, page 239, and then the ending table. There is no duplicate. Tread carefully when you do that because you're probably playing around with what people will call legacy data. And because you have modern storage, like I can take bills from the past and I can scan them in and put them into a database and into a searchable database. If you could save it, you don't want to become a digital pack rat for all intents and purposes, but you do want to make sure you've got the legacy data, because if you go through a process where you eliminate rows, you may take some information with you that you want to, so tread lightly. Adding information is always easier than getting rid of it, like purging customer lists or purging membership lists of a church, that type of thing. They walk you through there on at the bottom of page 241, 3 separate queries to recognize, okay, duplicate rows. And they give you a whole set of notes about that business. Table creation is about dimensions: who, what, when, where, how, when, the who, what, where, how, when, and it typically covers everything. And then it just becomes a matter of you calling from them. But if you design them, now you have to choose the dimension, then you have to choose how you intend to store them, the data type and the size. Okay? Well, I think that's pretty much going to do it. Let me stop for just a minute, and I'm going to turn this off. And I've shown you the two that you need to upload. And let me go back up here for a sec. And do I have anybody has a question? Okay, well, that being said, it's 1:43. We started a little bit early, so we're going to call it a day. I will see all of you on Thursday over at class. We've worked on lunches database 5 and 6 today. We'll start on 7 when I'm over there on Thursday. Okay, thanks a lot, everybody, and have a good one.